Hello YouTube, Logan Albright here, and today I thought I'd do something a little bit different than my usual book reviews. A few people I follow on BookTube have been doing this bookshelf tag where you kind of talk about your bookshelves and how they're organized and you answer a series of questions. So I thought I'd do that. It'll be fun, right? Let's dive in. Question number one, how many bookshelves do you own? Well, in my apartment in Washington, D.C., I have about 3-ish bookshelves. This bookshelf behind me is the only one that I paid money for. All the rest I found lying in the street, which is hard to beat. Pretty good deal. So I have just a random assortment of kind of not so nice bookshelves sitting around. I've got, like I said, 3 major ones, but then I have a lot of other random kind of surfaces that I have books on, which I'll show you later in the video. But I also still have a lot of books at my childhood home in Atlanta, Georgia that I've never moved up here because I don't have room for them. So I have more books than that, more bookshelves than that. I think I'm taking up 2 bookshelves in that house, but in this apartment, I'm going to say 3. Question number 2 is how many books do you have on your shelves, or how many books do you think you own in general? I did a rough count of the apartment, and I think it's around 500. Again, I have a lot more books back at home at my childhood home where my parents live, but in my apartment I have about 500 books, which is probably too many books, honestly. If I ever move, it's going to be a nightmare, but it's nice to have them around. It's a lot of books. Number 3 is how do you organize your books? Well, good question. I am not as fastidious about how I organize my books as I used to be. I used to be a lot more organized with them, but now I just kind of keep them roughly grouped by genre, really. And the bookshelf you see behind me is filled with mostly books on occultism and magic, which I think is interesting. I have a bookshelf that's filled with all my Library of America editions, a lot of psychology books, and my little P.G. Wodehouse hardcover from Overlook Press collection. The bookshelf I have in my bedroom is all economics and political science books. So I roughly organize them in that way. I tend to group hardbacks together and paperbacks together, but it's not alphabetical by author or anything like that. I also just have tons of random books lying around on surfaces, lined up against the windowsills or by my bed. So those are not organized. Those are just sitting around. And then right now I have a big stack of books that my phone is sitting on top of filming me. So you can't see those. Question number 4 is, what is the oldest book on your shelves? And I think the original video intended this to be the book you've had for the longest, but you can interpret this a couple of different ways. It can be the one you've had for the longest, it could be the book that is physically the oldest, or it could be the text that was published earliest, you know. If it's that, it's clearly something like, you know, some ancient Greek or Roman. Probably I have a book of Plato philosophy. That's probably the earliest stuff I have, or the Iliad, something like that. But if it's the book that is physically oldest, I have this incomplete collection of Victor Hugo hardcovers that I bought at the used bookstore, and they don't have dates in them. Let me get you a copy. I have to show you. Okay, so they're these. They're nice looking Victor Hugo books. Victor Hugo is my favorite novelist, and I'm going to be doing a top 5 Victor Hugo novels video very soon. It's on my list. It's coming. But anyway, I bought these. It's an incomplete set of his complete works. I only have like 5 volumes out of 30. But there's no date on the inside cover, but I did a little research, and it looks like they were published in 1902. So in terms of the oldest physical object book I have, these works of Victor Hugo from 1902 would be the oldest by far. In terms of the book I've had the longest, it's a tough question because most of my childhood books, as I said, are back at my childhood home. I think the one I've had the longest here is probably my hardcover omnibus of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which I think I've had since I was a teenager. I can't show it to you right now because my phone is sitting on top of it to film me. Next question is, what's the newest book in your collection? Again, you can understand this a couple of different ways. In terms of publication, I gotta say the newest book is my own book, Conform or Be Cast Out. The Literal Demonization of Nonconformist. Not yet published. That's how new it is, fresh off the presses. I know I said I wouldn't plug this in this video, but this question came up, so I had to do it. But that's not yet published, so that's technically the newest book in my collection. If you're going by books I've acquired most recently, probably The Library at Mount Char, which I just got a couple days ago on a recommendation from a friend. I haven't read it yet, but I just got this, so that's new. And then in terms of publication date, that's not one of my own books. I don't know, I don't read very many new books. Probably The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, which I did a review of. It was okay. I don't like it as much now as I did when I reviewed it. Maybe I'll have to revisit it at some point. Next up, what is the longest book on your bookshelves? This is a tough one because I have a lot of long books and a lot of like compendiums of lots of different books in one volume. So it's hard to say, and it depends on what you mean by book. Do you mean a single volume? Do you mean a single work that was intended to go together? Hard to say, but I think the answer is this book, which is Murray Rothbard's Man, Economy, and State with Power and Market. which is a basically extremely comprehensive and long textbook on the Austrian School of Economics. It's a great book, but a hard read and a long read, and it took me forever to get through it. It's about 1,400 pages, so I think that's the longest book in my collection. It weighs a lot too. Okay, the next question is the shortest book in your collection, and again, it really kind of depends on what you mean by book. I have a lot of things that could qualify. Maybe you just consider them a pamphlet or an essay, but they're published separately. So I'm going to go with Mises and Austrian Economics. Speaking of Austrian economics, by the one and only Dr. Ron Paul. Fantastic. This is only 23 pages, so it's the shortest book in my collection, and I think it's a nice little bookend to, have the longest and the shortest book both be about Austrian economics. It shows you where my interests lie. The next question is, which genre do you primarily have on your bookshelves? Like I said, it's odd. I do mainly fiction on this channel, but I think I probably primarily read nonfiction. So I have a ton of books on occultism and magic behind me. I have a ton of books on economics and political science. Those are probably the two biggest genres. In terms of fiction, probably classics would be my most popular genre. I have a lot of, collections of things like Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, Tolkien. I've got, William Faulkner and Herman Melville, Nathaniel Hawthorne, like all that kind of stuff is probably my most collected. I've got a little bit of science fiction, a little bit of fantasy, but mainly I'd say classics. And maybe horror. I like horror. Next question is, have you ever done a bookshelf tour? I've actually done two. Yes, I did one when I first found the bookshelf that I have over there, which contains my Library of America editions, and I'll link to that right there. And I also did a tour when I was at my parents' house for Christmas a couple years ago of my occult library, which is largely migrated to this apartment by now. So I'll link that video in the description as well. I don't think there's a point in me doing another bookshelf tour anytime soon. I think you guys have seen most of the books I have through a combination of the tours I've already done or me reviewing them on this channel, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do one at some point. Okay, the next question is to use a random number generator and pick a book at random and then talk about it. So I did that, and I came up with the number 88, and I started counting from a random book. And the book I came up with is Cryptozoology A to Z. This was written by Lauren Coleman and Jerome Clark. And I bought this book in the International Museum of Cryptozoology in Portland, Maine, which is a really cool place. I highly recommend you go there if you're in the area. If you're in New England, go to Portland, Maine, and check out the International Cryptozoology Museum. It's not big, but it's cool. And they sell nice books like this. Cryptozoology, for those who don't know, is the study of undiscovered animals. It talks about things like Bigfoot, Loch Ness monsters, chupacabras, and authentic mysteries of nature. It's not the kind of book you read cover to cover. It's reference work, but it's a lot of fun, and I find it comes in handy every once in a while because I'm interested in that kind of stuff. Okay, the next question is, do you have any fan merch or other decorations on your bookshelves? No to merch. I don't really collect that kind of stuff. It's not too interesting to me. But I do have a few decorations, largely because I don't have anywhere else to put them. Let's see. I've got this neat little owl statue. That's pretty cool. I've got a couple of llamas. I like llamas. I keep my tarot card collection up here. So that's a decoration I have on there. A couple different tarot decks. So that's nice. I also have some antique poison bottles that I sort of quasi-collect that are sitting around. They're all empty, of course. And finally, my wonderful little stand-up from the limited edition Twin Peaks Z to A box set on Blu-ray, which I highly recommend. You guys, you got to go watch Twin Peaks. If you haven't done it, stop this video, go watch it right now. It's amazing. Okay, last question is for me to show you my bookshelves. So not so easy to do because, like I said, they're spread out all over the place. But here are some videos and some photos showing off my books around the apartment. Da 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 da. Little mood music for you there. Okay, that's the bookshelf book tag. I've had a lot of fun doing it. Maybe we'll do more of these type of tags in the future. I hope that other booktubers will partake and have a good time. I think the original video for this is like 2 years old, so I'm way behind, but I just saw a few people doing it this week, so I thought I'd participate. A lot of fun. Anyway, I've been Logan Albright. I'll be back next week with another book review. I'm trying to get through some more books that I'm reading so I can talk about those, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks so much for watching.